Your body is trying to tell you something, and you keep ignoring it. There's a weight in your chest that wasn't there before, a restlessness that follows you from room to room. You wake up tired. You go through the motions. You tell yourself it's stress, or the season, or just how life is now. But underneath all of that, something deeper is stirring, something that doesn't speak in words. It speaks in symptoms, in frustration, in the sudden urge to destroy everything you've built. Your soul is rebelling, and it started long before you were willing to notice. Carl Jung called this process individuation, the psyche's drive toward wholeness, toward becoming who you actually are, beneath the roles you've been playing, the expectations you've been meeting, the life you've been performing. But individuation isn't gentle. It doesn't ask permission. It doesn't wait until you're ready. It begins as discomfort, a vague sense that something is wrong, even when nothing is technically wrong. You have the job, the relationship, the life you said you wanted, but you don't feel like yourself inside it. You feel like you're wearing a costume that no longer fits. And the psyche won't let that go unnoticed. The soul doesn't operate on logic. It doesn't care about your 5-year plan or what you told people you were going to do. It cares about alignment, about truth, about whether the life you're living matches the life you were meant to live. And when those two things are out of sync, the rebellion begins. It starts quietly, a nagging sense of dissatisfaction. You find yourself irritated by things that never bothered you before. Small annoyances feel unbearable. Conversations feel shallow. The routines that once gave you structure now feel suffocating. You brush it off. You tell yourself you're just tired. You need a vacation. You need to work harder, be more grateful, stop being so sensitive. But the feeling doesn't go away. It grows. You start feeling friction everywhere, at work, at home, in your relationships. Nothing feels easy anymore. Everything requires effort. You're constantly managing your energy, forcing yourself to show up, pretending you're fine when you're not. And the worst part is you can't explain why. On paper, your life looks good, maybe even enviable. So why do you feel like you're suffocating? Because your soul is trying to break free from a life that no longer serves it. This is what Jung meant when he talked about the psyche's demand for truth. The unconscious won't tolerate a false life indefinitely. It will send signals, symptoms, emotional eruptions. And if you ignore those long enough, it will escalate. Depression, anxiety, rage, physical illness. The body becomes the messenger when the mind refuses to listen. You're not broken, you're being called. Let's make this concrete, because this doesn't happen in theory. It happens in the middle of your actual life in ways that feel disorienting and impossible to articulate. Imagine this. You've been in the same job for 5 years. It pays well. It's stable. Your family is proud of you. Your friends think you have it together. But every Sunday night, you feel a dread so heavy, it sits on your chest like a stone. You wake up Monday morning, and the first thought that enters your mind is how many days until the weekend. You sit at your desk and feel nothing. No excitement, no curiosity, no sense of purpose. Just the mechanical execution of tasks that mean nothing to you. You tell yourself, this is just work. This is what being an adult feels like. Everyone feels this way, but that's not true. And some part of you knows it. You start noticing how tired you are, how irritable, How quickly you snap at people over small things. You drink more, you scroll more. You do anything to avoid the quiet moments when you might actually have to feel what's happening inside you. And then one day, something small happens. A meeting gets rescheduled. A project gets delayed. And instead of feeling relieved, you feel rage, disproportionate, overwhelming rage, not because of the meeting, because your soul is done pretending. This is the rebellion. It doesn't show up as clarity, it shows up as chaos, as emotional volatility, as the sudden, irrational desire to quit everything and start over, even though you have no plan and no idea what you'd do instead. Your rational mind panics. It tries to shut the rebellion down. It reminds you of your responsibilities, your bills, your commitments. It tells you to be reasonable, to wait, to think it through. But the soul doesn't wait. It doesn't negotiate. It just keeps pushing until you finally listen. And the longer you resist, the worse it gets. You start feeling trapped, not by external circumstances, but by your own choices. You chose this job. You chose this path. You said yes to all of it, and now you're stuck with the consequences. Except you're not stuck. You're terrified. Terrified of what it would mean to admit you were wrong. Terrified of disappointing people. Terrified of the unknown. Terrified that if you walk away from this life, you won't know how to build another one. So you stay, and the rebellion intensifies. You stop sleeping well. You feel exhausted no matter how much rest you get. You lose interest in things that used to bring you joy. You feel numb, detached, like you're watching your life from the outside, going through motions that belong to someone else. This is what it looks like when your soul is trying to break free and you won't let it. Jung understood this as the psyche's refusal to live a lie. The unconscious holds the blueprint of who you're meant to become. And when your conscious life deviates too far from that blueprint, the unconscious revolts. It sends dreams, strange, unsettling dreams where you're trapped or lost or running from something. It sends body symptoms, tension, pain, exhaustion that no amount of sleep can fix. It sends emotional storms, sudden bursts of anger or sadness that seem to come from nowhere. Moments where you feel like you're losing control, even though nothing has changed externally. These aren't signs of weakness. They're signs of misalignment. Your soul is trying to get your attention, and it will keep escalating until you finally turn toward it and ask the question you've been avoiding. What do I actually want? Not what you're supposed to want. Not what would make other people happy. Not what fits the image you've been trying to maintain. What do you actually want? And here's where it gets difficult, because most people don't know. They've spent so long living according to external expectations that they've lost touch with their own inner compass. They don't know what brings them alive because they haven't asked in years. They don't know what they value because they've been too busy performing values they were taught to have. And the rebellion is the psyche's way of forcing that question to the surface. This is the shift. The moment you stop treating the discomfort as a problem to solve and start seeing it as information. The irritability isn't random. It's showing you where you're compromising yourself. The exhaustion isn't laziness. It's your body telling you that this life is costing you more than you can sustain. The restlessness isn't dissatisfaction. It's your soul pointing toward something you've been ignoring. The rebellion is guidance, but you have to be willing to listen. And listening means facing what you've been avoiding. It means admitting that the life you built might not be the life you need. It means acknowledging that the path you chose made sense at the time, but it doesn't anymore. It means accepting that growth requires loss. That becoming who you're meant to be means letting go of who you've been. This terrifies people because it feels like failure, like you wasted time, like you made a mistake. But that's not what's happening. You didn't fail. You outgrew something, and the psyche is calling you forward into the next version of yourself. The question is whether you'll answer. Jung believed that the second half of life demands a different set of questions than the first. In the first half, you're building, you're achieving, you're establishing yourself in the world, you're proving something. But in the second half, the psyche stops caring about achievement. It starts caring about meaning, about authenticity, about whether you're living in alignment with your deeper self. And if you're not, the rebellion begins. This doesn't mean you have to blow up your life. It doesn't mean you quit your job tomorrow or leave your relationship or move across the country. But it does mean you have to stop ignoring what's happening inside you. You have to stop numbing it, rationalizing it, or waiting for it to go away on its own. You have to turn toward the discomfort and ask what it's trying to show you. Maybe it's showing you that you've been living according to someone else's values, that you've been chasing goals that don't actually matter to you, that you've been staying small to make other people comfortable. Maybe it's showing you that you've abandoned parts of yourself to fit in, that you've silenced your creativity, your anger, your wildness, your softness, because those things didn't fit the role you were playing. Maybe it's showing you that you've been so focused on survival, on responsibility, on doing what you're supposed to do, that you forgot to ask whether any of it makes you feel alive. The rebellion is the psyche's way of saying, this isn't working anymore. Something has to change, and the only way through is to listen. So what does listening look like in practice? It starts with creating space to feel without immediately trying to fix, space to ask questions without demanding immediate answers, space to sit with the discomfort and let it speak. You stop filling every quiet moment with distraction. You stop avoiding yourself. You start paying attention to what pulls you and what drains you, to what makes you feel alive and what makes you feel dead inside. You start asking different questions, not what should I do, but what does my soul need? Not how do I make this work, but is this still true for me? And you have to be willing to hear the answers, even when they're inconvenient, even when they disrupt everything you've built, even when they ask you to choose yourself over comfort. This is where the real work begins, because recognizing the rebellion is one thing, acting on it is another. Most people get stuck here. They see what's wrong. They feel the pull toward something different, but they don't move. They wait for the perfect moment, the clear sign, the guarantee that it will work out. But the psyche doesn't give guarantees. It only gives direction. And the direction is always the same, toward truth, toward alignment, toward the life that matches who you actually are, not who you've been pretending to be. This doesn't mean the path is clear. It means you stop waiting for permission to take the first step. You start making small changes. You set a boundary you've been avoiding. You say no to something that drains you. You carve out time for something that brings you alive, even if it feels selfish or impractical. You stop performing the life you think you're supposed to have and start building the life you actually need. And here's what happens. The rebellion starts to quiet, not because you've silenced it, but because you're finally listening. The irritability fades. The exhaustion lifts. The restlessness transforms into clarity. You start feeling like yourself again, not because you've returned to who you were, but because you've stepped into who you're becoming. This is individuation, the psyche's demand for wholeness, for authenticity, for a life that reflects the truth of who you are. And it's not a one-time event. It's a continuous process, a lifelong conversation between who you are and who you're becoming. The soul will always call you forward. It will always push you past comfort, past safety, past the version of yourself that's too small to hold everything you are. And when you ignore it, when you try to force yourself into a life that no longer fits, the rebellion will return. But when you listen, when you honor what's trying to emerge, something shifts. You stop feeling like you're fighting yourself.